4:57 a.m. right now. I'm up here thinking about you guys, kind of the world as it sits. Well, a lot of people are still a little confused by what's all happened in the last 5, maybe 10 years. They don't really know what's going on in the world. It seems chaotic, all this stuff. And I get it. I understand why it can be very confusing. It looks like it is. You got to realize that we have lived in some of the best times in human history. The last 100 years have been like nothing any other humans have ever seen before. And we're living now in a moment that's changing, you know. Some people call it like the fourth turning or a super cycle, they call it a pivotal moment. And a lot of it's because of technology, you know. When you have a lot of change all of a sudden, really quick, you end up with kind of like this pressure that builds up. And a lot of that is we're not adapted to living like this. I mean, you guys all, you know this. Phones, cars, just having food available everywhere. And these conveniences made us forgotten a lot of, you know, what's really valuable and what's important in the world. You know, that's how it is. So, how do we begin to make sense of it all as far as what is going on and what is the right things to do? Well, I've thought about this a lot, and to start with, I try to look back at the past, try and figure out who we are, what we are, and it helps me to understand what to do and what the future will look like. You have to understand that as humans, we're meant to be in groups. We're meant to have some sort of community, right? That's how we've survived for tens of thousands of years. And there's no more communities like there used to be. As far as most people used to grow up on a farm together, right? It would be multi-generational families living in one household or one property. And you had people in your day-to-day that you would interact with all the time that you loved and cared about, and that loved and cared about you. And they were interested in your success. They were interested in you doing well because it helped them, and vice versa. We're not in that anymore, at least in the Western world. There's still countries, they're not as industrialized, and they tend to still kind of use that model. And you know, in some ways that makes them a little better off than us, as far as some of their happiness, right? But not only that, you've got all of our food is not really food. The things that you eat, they mess with your body, which messes with your mind. The things that you go buy at the store, most of it is not something that's really edible. It's something partially edible with a bunch of other things inside of it. And those things, they harm you. They mess with your gut. They mess with your mind. And they can make it so that we don't feel as well, which makes the world also feel more confusing. This stuff, there's like a whole bunch of meta problems. Even though we have all this, technology that makes things better, we've forgotten a lot of things, and you may not even really realize that this stuff is important. I've done my best to try and live more in those older ways, right? I garden. I try to get the right foods, and I try to connect with other people. I try to have regular people I hang out with, and I try to set aside time for building a community, right? I think that one probably would be the most helpful for a lot of people. Starting a community of some type. It's something that you could do very easy on a day-to-day. So to start with, how do you do that? Why do you do that? When you have a group of people that you can hang out with, it will help you to feel a sense of belonging, and maybe you have like apathy as far as you feel like life is pointless. If you have other people to help out and take care of, and vice versa, they take care of you, you'll feel like there's meaning to life a lot more, and you won't have as much anxiety and depression, that loneliness, etc. Probably outside of survival needs, this is probably the next most important thing you can do. I've been alone for a long time. I've been with people for a long time. When I was young, I was actually homeschooled all through childhood. I was with my family every day, all day, everywhere. And to me, that was normal. But as I've gotten older, I've noticed how most families, they're very segregated. They don't hang out so much, and they're not comfortable with each other like my family was. This is one of the, for me, what I think is one of the most powerful things towards your mental health. A lot of the problems that I see with people, they get crazy ideas. They sit alone too much, or they don't have the ability to share their thoughts with people that are intimate. When that happens, you end up thinking you're right about things that might just be kind of nuts, or just, it just doesn't make sense. When this happens, you end up going along with it, and they're not helpful to you, that you end up making bad decisions. But when you have groups of people, or you just have people that you can talk to, and you can bounce ideas off of, or talk about life, or what you're doing, etc., not in a greedy way where it's all about you, but back and forth, those people, they can kind of be a backstop for you, and they can kind of, tell you when maybe something you're doing isn't very good for you, or what you're thinking is maybe a little off, share a different perspective with you. So whenever you can, what you really want is you need to find your people. I think this is important. I think this is one of the foundations for culture, civilization, your mind, etc. And you need not 10,000 friends, not 1,000 friends. You probably need at most something like 100 friends. And within that 100 friends, you probably need about 5 to 10 people that you interact with regularly, like weekly or maybe daily. Those would be more in alignment with like what you'd call your family. These people, you need to set aside time for them. Like once a week at least, if you have a wife or if you have like husband, girlfriend, something like that, do a date night or just pick one day of the week where it's you and them. And then also would be really, really good if every week or every other week you could set up some type of party, group meetup, or just be a part of a club. If you can be in a jujitsu group, a fencing group, pottery group, something like that. And don't do it for the hobby, do it for the connection. Right? Do it for the people that you want to meet, and then try and pick the ones that are good people and integrate them into your life. This is a foundational thing to have a part of your life. I can't stress enough how much can increase your happiness. We are pack animals through and through. We're physically designed to be that way. We talk. Like, why do we talk? Why am I talking to you? We can share all these crazy ideas with complex words and ideas. It's so that we can connect. Most animals, if they can talk, right, it's a very, very, very basic language of body language and, maybe some form of talking, but it's self-evident. It needs to be a priority for you. So, anyway, take that what you will. Challenge yourself. Minimum, try to organize some type of party or event where you get close people that you care about together at least twice a month, right? And then when you do that, if you have a hard time finding people, go out and just start friendly conversations with people who are interested in things you're interested in. Reach out, right? All right, guys. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.